Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. My track guide for the Ferrari 296 challenge car going around Watkins Glen, the boot layout. Let's get into it. We want to start out on the left side of the track, being as close as we can to the white line, and we want to brake just a car length before the 300 board here on the left. I aim for about 90% brake pressure, trailing that off all the way to the inside curb. The corner is banking, so we can carry a bit more speed than we think. We only want to cut the low part of the curb. If you hit the high one, you will untilt the car too much. Once at the curb, start to apply the throttle again, and we can use all of the available room here on the outside. Here it's all about being smooth, so we don't let the car slide. Get close to the inside curb of turn 2 before getting close to the inside curb of turn 3. Let the car walk out towards the wall for turn 4, so we don't scrub off too much speed. And all that was done flat out. Just make sure you don't hit the TC, as that will slow you down. Get over to the left side of the track before we get to the bus stop. We want to brake just before the 400 board here on the left. And here we go to about 80%, trailing that off all the way to the first curb. And we want to cut that curb quite aggressively. Get as close to the wall as you dare. Once we are on the curb, we don't want to hold too much brake pressure, because the car will take air, and once we land, that will lock up the brakes. Then we keep on trailing the brake until we are off the second curb. After that, we want to start to apply the throttle again slowly, making sure we hit each curb afterwards as well. For turn 5, I brake just after I leave this darker part of tarmac. A quick hit to about 35% before going into a trail brake in action. And we're trail braking the car all the way down to the emergency road, where we also apex, and once we get to that, we'll start to apply the throttle again. And here I'm easing in the throttle to make sure we don't hit the wall on the outside of turn 5. It's really easy for the car to understeer all the way out past this curve. Get over to the right side of the track. For turn 6, I don't have the best braking marker for you, but I'm braked just about here, which is a couple of car lengths before a drain here on the right, and I aim for about 90% brake pressure, and I'm trailing that off all the way to where the fins start on the inside. This is also where we want to start to pick up the throttle again, and we want to ease in the throttle because the track is falling away from us, and it's really easy to understeer out into the grass. There's a bit of curbing on the outside we can utilize if needed, and go over to the left side of the track. Turn 7 is going uphill, so we can carry a bit more speed than we think. I brake at the 200 marker here on the left. I aim for about 90% brake pressure, and I'm trailing that off all the way to the middle of the corner. Then we want to pick up the throttle again, and we want to ease it in, again because this car wants to understeer so much. Then it's really easy to run into the grass, and we don't have a lot of space on the outside here. So if you go into the grass, you picked up the throttle too early. If you get a bad exit here, people might try and overtake you into turn 8, but in qualifying, you want to stay on the left side of the track. For turn 8, the braking marker is going to be the 200 board here on the left, and we will brake just before we get to it, and I aim for about 90% brake pressure, and we're easing that off all the way to the inside curb. Once we get to the curb, we want to start to apply the throttle again. Here we really want to ease it in. There's a lot of room on the exit we can use, and we should use it because the car really wants to get out there. But once we cross the curb, the car really wants to spin up the rear tire. Now get over to the right side of the track. I don't have a good braking marker for you here for turn 9, but I brake just about midway up this little hill, and I aim for about 80%, quickly trailing that off. And I prefer to get in close to the curb in the beginning of the corner before dragging out just a little bit and going back for a second apex. Once I'm at that second apex, I start to apply the throttle again. Again, here we want to ease it in because it's really easy for the rear to spin around. Just make sure you don't end up in the grass, because then you will hit the wall. Now stay on the right side of the track. For turn 10, my braking marker is the 200 board here on the right. Once I get past that, I'll start to brake. A quick hit to about 35%, trailing that off all the way to the curb. Once I get to the curb, I'll start to apply the throttle again. The goal is to come out just about the outside curb. We don't want to go too far outside that because we want to get back to the left side of the track. For turn 11, we want to brake a couple of car lengths before the end of the tire wall here on the left. While braking, make sure you brake out towards the tire wall and turn in at the end of it. When I start to brake, I go to about 40% brake pressure, trailing that off until the middle of the curb. Once I'm past the curb, I'll start to apply the throttle again. And we're easing in the throttle just a little bit to make sure we don't hit the outside wall, but we want to get as close to the wall as we dare to carry as much exit speed as we can. And that's a lap around Watkins Glen in the Ferrari 296 challenge car of a time of 1 minute 43.1. I'll have more track guides for the challenge car linked down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a like down below, consider subscribing as well. And now for the uninterrupted hot laps.